Hey everybody, you're watching Capital Hunter, and I picked up a huge stack of old Canadian paper money. I paid 2 times face value. Today we're going to take a look and see, did I find anything rare or valuable, something to make this purchase worthwhile? Did I do better than what I spent on it? Stay tuned, we're going to find out. Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel Capital Hunter. So today we're going to look at these banknotes that I got in a purchase recently from my antique dealer Tim. You saw in a previous video I got a whole bunch of other things in that practically for free that got thrown in because I was purchasing these banknotes. I bought them for 2 times face. Tim probably got them for a little bit less than that from an old collector. And so what we're going to do is just see, how did I do? And to figure that out, we're going to use the Charlton Standard Catalog of Canadian government paper money. Now, a lot of these bills, like these $1 bills particularly, might not be worth any more than face value. However, what the catalog has here is information on scarcity, print runs. There are some serial numbers and some signature combinations that might be less common than others that would be worth more than face value. And particularly, if you've got notes that are in really nice condition, they'll have a premium for sure. What I'm hoping is that we'll get at least a few in here that have some additional value beyond 2 times face to kind of carry the transaction. And there are a couple in here I can already see. There's a couple asterisk notes, so we've got some replacement notes. Those might have a bit of extra value. And there's an older bill in here, a $5 bill. Some 1954 series we'll want to take a look at and see if we've got any of the more scarce, more valuable devil's face. I don't think so, but I haven't looked in here yet closely. But I have a feeling that those might have been pulled out before I got to them. You never know. So we're going to start, I think, with the $1 bills. We'll start with these more new ones. These are the 1973 series. This is what money looked like when I was a kid, and there are some $2 bills in that series too we'll look at next. We'll try to see what we got. Is there anything more scarce or more valuable? I believe in this whole lot there is $123 in face value, which means I would have spent $246 on this bundle. I think for my entire purchase, I spent $250. So all that other stuff came with it. It was a rounding issue. So in any case, this is what I was buying, and I got a bunch of really, really cool stuff in that purchase too. I'll put a link to that video up here so you can find that one, the other half of this purchase. But we'll start with these $1 bills. We'll open up the Charlton catalog and see what we're dealing with. So we ended up with 13 of these 1973 series $1 bills. All of the ones that I have here have the Lawson and Bowie signature combination. Some of these are older than others. One way we can tell, besides the signature combination, is that the first runs of these bills had 2 letters in the prefix of the serial number, so AL and then followed by a series of numbers. As they continue to move along, some of them started having 3 letters here, AAC, BCY. So we know these ones with 3 letters are newer, but they all carry the Lawson-Bowie signature combination. The most recent, the newest of these bills would carry the Crow-Bowie signature combination. Now these are pretty common. If we look in the Charlton catalog here, the Lawson-Bowie bills with 2 letters, 1.8 billion of these were printed. And if I look over on this side over here, Lawson-Bowie 3 letters, almost 900 million. And you can see that in most conditions, they're only worth face value. It's only when you get into an almost uncirculated or an uncirculated bill that it has any sort of premium. So some of the ones that we have here, like this guy right here, is not going to qualify. It's got some bends, it's been folded. Not sure why somebody held on to this, unless they found it more recently and thought, wow, that's like an old bill. Some of these are in better condition. They've been sitting probably laid flat together, probably since the time they were issued. Interestingly, we don't have any in here that are in series. That's what we'd often find. Like there's some that are pretty close here, 828, 447, but the first digits are close to being the same. A lot of times collectors would have pulled these out and held them together. So here's a 202 and a 606 and a 707. Oh, but that's a different prefix. So collectors would often do that if they got a few consecutive bills. They may or may not have much of a premium. Some collectors like that. In any case, looking at this, the other thing we want to do is see if any of these signature combinations with these serial numbers are less common than others. And in the catalog, we can see that essentially there's only one 2-letter prefix we're looking for that has any kind of premium, and that's the PA prefix. We don't have that. And in the 3-letter combination with the Lawson buoy, there are a number. The Bank of Canada at the time was experimenting with different printing techniques. So there are some that you can see have a premium. We'd be looking for instance, ALM, AXA, and we don't have any of those. We have an AL, but we don't have any of those 3-letter combinations that are on there. So I'm going to say that probably half of these are probably worth face value and half might even just be worth a couple dollars. So we're already down, but these are still good. I'll pick out the best of these and I'll want to protect them. I've got some of these little bill protectors to put them in. So the ones that are most interesting, valuable, or in best condition, I'll want to preserve them. Just as I was putting them away, I noticed that this particular bill here has a minor issue. It's what we call a gas pump error, a misaligned digit. You can see that B in the serial number, both in the red serial number and in slightly in the blue serial number, are a little bit higher, particularly more so, I think, in that red one. And I don't think this carries much of a premium at all, but it's just kind of a neat thing to see. If we had several digits that were like that, it might be the 7 at the end is a little bit like that too, where the part of the process where the serial numbers were printing one of the digits might have been sort of stuck in a little bit higher. But in any case, kind of neat to see, but doesn't really carry a premium on that. Before we go on, I should show you the other side of this note. These are beautiful scenes. This is depicting logging on the Ottawa River. That's Canada's Parliament buildings in the background on Parliament Hill. And I often forget to show the other side when I'm doing banknotes, but many of you may not have seen these or may not have seen them in person for a long time. But in the $2, we got 6 $2 bills from this series. This is the 1974 series. Same issue as these guys here. Now, we also got 2-digit and 3-digit prefixes, and we were fortunate enough to get one that is a little bit lower printed, this BC series. They're all Lawson buoy that we have here. And again, when we check in our Charlton guide, we see that the BC series has a slight premium in uncirculated or higher grades here. And there's 2 different versions. There's the modified tint and original tint. And when I look at these 2 bills, this BB and this BC, I don't see a difference in the coloring. I don't know if you can. So I'm assuming this is going to be the original tint version, which is a little bit more common and not as much of a premium. But these bills are largely uncirculated. They've got a little bit of issues in the corners, which is common, but they don't have any creases or folds. They haven't circulated. So they could be in an EF or an AU grade. So even that BC would be a $12 in an AU, $5 in an EF. Let's just sort of split the difference and call it $8 for that one. And the other ones that are all in really nice condition, same thing. We might say like $6, $5. We'll say $5 for those ones. So those are pretty nice. And we'll take a peek at the other side of this bill. And it's another water scene. This looks to be up north. That appears to be some rocky scene as well as perhaps some ice in the water. These folks are probably doing some kind of fishing. Next up, we got 2 $5 bills. This is the 1972 series, and you can see the front and the back. This one's interesting because as these ones were printed later on, they moved the serial number from the front of the bill to the back of the bill. They redesigned the back to fit the serial number along the bottom. These are the older ones, 2 prefix. These are Buoy-Razminski, so these are earlier in the series. Both in really nice condition. No creases, no bends, no folds. Just a little bit of wear on the corners, which again is just common from people who even just store them in an envelope or something. It just happens. But these would probably both be in about an AU condition. And of According to my Charlton catalog, these are both common prefix. They're Bowie-Rezminski 2 letters, but in an AU, $22 each. So let's just say let's say 18 bucks for each of these. So that's good. So we'll make up some ground on these ones, even though some of these ones here will just worth face value. So that's really cool. And again, another fishing scene with some kind of a trawler. They're pretty cool. So we ended up getting 6 of these 1986 series $2 bills here. Now 3 of them are largely in uncirculated condition, and 3 of them have been circulated and have creases. And these ones here are probably only worth face value. But we did get 3 different signature combinations. We got Thyssen-Crow, 2 of those. We got a Crow Bowie, which would be one of the older ones, and we got a Bonn-Thyssen, which would be one of the newest ones in this series. And of course, banknotes all have a series date, but they could be printed with that date for many years. So there are different ways to tell how old or how new a bill is. Usually it's by the signature combination as well as the serial number. So there are a bunch of different variations of this bill and different scarcity and serial numbers, and a few that are quite scarce. You can see the Thyssen-Crow AUG and AUH are particularly valuable in AUJ. So we'll have to flip these bills over to see what we've got, because they started putting the serial numbers on these ones on the other side. So I've looked through the Charlton catalog, and all of these are very common serial number prefixes. There's nothing special about any of these. These bills here particularly don't have a whole lot of value. Even in an uncirculated condition for these common ones, they would fetch in the catalog here for $3. So these ones that have a crease or a bend are only worth face value. These ones here that are crisp and clean could be worth as much as $3, but I bet if I looked at each of these, I'd find an issue on a corner, and there are going to be pristine examples that would fetch that $3. So I'm going to just say that all of these ones are just face value. I was just about to move on, and I realized I had another $2 bill that was just off to the side, and I just must have dropped it over there. Interestingly, this is one where there are some varieties in this. So the prefix on this is BGD, and interestingly, what we're looking at is the B on these bills. And there's some cool things in these with these prefixes starting with B. And you'll see here anything from BGA to BGZ, or Z if you're from the States, they can be pretty common, but they can either have 2 small b's, 1 small b and 1 large b, or 2 large b's. And the mixed b's and the large b's actually have quite a premium in an uncirculated condition. They're quite valuable banknotes. And I'll show you what we're looking at here. And there's a good illustration. Here is a prefix that shows the large B and a small b here. And this shows what 2 small b's look like. But this is the BB. And I have a BB with the large, which is really cool that I found. What we have here is the 2 small b's. And it is common. And even in an uncirculated, still $9 find. This one here, I think, is a circulated bill. It's not worth anything. And it's 2 small b's. So it's the most common of these. If we had 1 large B on one side and small b on the other, or 2 large b's, it'd actually be worth holding on to for sure. Next up, we've got these 1967 Centennial of Confederation bills. We got, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in total. And there's 2 different kinds of these bills. These were issued as a commemorative bill with just the date as a serial number, which is really interesting, unusual in modern paper currency. And then again with the traditional serial number you can see here. And in these years, they were doing a 2-letter prefix with a letter above another letter. Interesting. That was what we saw in the 1954 series as well, which we've got up there. We'll get to. I think this is where we're going to do really well. So we'll start off with these guys here. These are really common. They're really common in really nice condition. Because they were a commemorative, people held on to them. And so, the banks were giving them in special packaging and pressed and that sort of stuff. So we've got a couple that have some creases. They're just going to be face value. The rest here, I'm going to say probably $2 each. So at least we got what we paid for them. Then we got a couple with just The serial numbers, H over P and G over P, they're both BD Razminsky. This one's in pretty bad shape. This one is in better shape. We'll take a peek in the book and see what those are at. And the prefixes we've got are G over P or H over P. So those are pretty common, and sort of even in a VF, they're worth a couple of dollars. So I'm going to say they're probably worth a couple of dollars, even in that condition that they're in. So, even if they were pretty awful, they'd be a couple bucks. So a couple bucks. But these are the ones I'm really excited about. These asterisk replacement notes. We've got a couple. This F over P is in pretty awful shape. We'll get a better look at it here. It's got lots of creases and bends. That corner is there. It's just folded over. And then a couple B over M that are actually in essentially a new condition. These have not been folded, so they're almost uncirculated. This has a little bit of a crease on the corner, unfortunately. This other one here is pretty nice. It looks like, if I look to see, this one might have been folded a little bit. Yeah, you can see a little bit of a fold. But, so that might be in an EF. This one might be in an almost AU. This one over here is probably going to be in a, who knows, a VG or an F. But if we look at the book, that F over P, if it's even just a VG or an F, and it could very well be that, that's a $14 pickup right there. These B over M, if we're looking in an EF or an AU, are $10 or $15 pickups. So I think that we could probably say at least 10 bucks each for those two B over M. And the F over P, it's in a lower grade for sure. So we'll say that's probably $15 as well. So that's a great pickup right there. That's better than 2 times face, absolutely. I'll put these in some of these bill protectors so they don't get any worse than they already are. That's really awesome. And we'll take a quick peek at the back of that bill. That's Canada's first Parliament buildings, as it says on there, and these were destroyed by fire, and the Parliament buildings had to be rebuilt. The only surviving building of the original Parliament was the Library of Parliament, which is still standing. Next up, we got 8 different bills in the 1954 series, and these are all the modified series. If you've watched my channel, you've seen me highlight before, the hair on the Queen's head had to be modified because the early versions of it looked like it had the face of the devil. And it was not a conspiracy. It wasn't something somebody did on purpose. It was just a faithful reproduction of the photograph that was taken of the Queen. But some people thought it looked, I guess, demonish. And so they had to modify that. Now, most of these are common when I look in the catalog. This one here certainly is worth face value. It's in terrible shape. There are 2 different printers for this, the British American Banknote Company and the Canadian Banknote Company. And there's only one from the Canadian Banknote Company, and that's this one here in terrible shape that's worth face value for sure. The rest are, with only this as an exception, this one has a few little creases and folds. The rest are actually no creases, no folds. They've been laying flat. So they're almost uncirculated. But there is one in here that is perhaps worth a little bit more. Actually, the H over F, both of these have a bit of a premium. We got 3 different signature combinations. We got BD Razminsky, we got Lawson Bowie, and we got Bowie Razminsky. So as the governors changed positions and were replaced, that's what's happened here over time. So we'll look in the book here, because when I look here for the H over F, it's a smaller print run, 2,760,000. In an AU condition, it's worth $25. So that's really cool. We've got one at least in that condition, and another one that might be more like an EF, perhaps $15. That's really cool. But all the other ones that are common in here, we're probably going to say they're worth a few dollars at least. They might even be as much as $5. So I think for the ones that are almost uncirculated, $5. We'll say $4 for the rest of them anyway. So that's really cool. If you were to find them in the Devil's Face series, they're particularly valuable, particularly in the lower denominations, because they were heavily circulated. And especially if you found replacement notes with the asterisk on it, they are very hard to come by. They are worth hundreds of dollars. And that's why I always take every opportunity to try to buy up collections like this, because there might be something that was overlooked, like these star notes that we found, or asterisk notes more precisely, in the 1967 series. If we found them in the 1954, they're even more valuable, and in the Devil's Face, even more so. Something else you always want to look at when you're looking at banknotes, of course, are the serial numbers. And there are special combinations that are valuable that collectors look for. And look at how close we got to a radar on this bill. 838382. If that 2 had been an 8, it would have been a radar. And that would have, I think, a significant premium in this condition and a lower print run. It wasn't meant to be, of course. There's a 2 there. So that's okay. It's still a really nice bill in really nice condition, and a harder one to find. And on the back of that bill, a beautiful rural scene. So we ended up with 12 of the $2 bills in the 1954 series, and we ended up getting 3 different signature combinations, which is also very cool. So we got Bowie Resminski, B.D. Resminski, and Lawson Bowie. These would be the newer of the bills. This one is the most circulated, of course. There's another one here that is circulated. It's got a crease. The rest, though, are largely uncirculated, so they'd probably fetch an AU. Again, no creases, no bends. They've been probably sitting, laying flat, and just minor issues, perhaps, with just the tips of the corners. So otherwise, in really good condition. I've checked the serial numbers, and there is really nothing here that is valuable beyond just their condition, except that all of these ones that are in, say, an AU would book at about $9. So even if we say $7 each, I think we've got a great deal here. And these ones that are circulated, probably, I'm going to say they probably face value for those ones that are circulated, maybe an extra $1, so maybe $3. And so that's okay. You can see this has got a corner crease here. This one has a big crease in the middle. They're certainly worth more than face value. Collectors, you still can't find these in circulation typically, so there is a premium for these. And we don't even know how many of these have been destroyed, because as paper money gets returned to the bank, they send it back to the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada destroys them. So there's a lot less of these now than there were. So the figures in this book here that tell you how big the print runs are and how many might be out there, they don't account for how many have been destroyed. That's just how many were printed. And these bills from the 1954 series have been around for a very long time. And there is a look at the back of that $2 1954, some rolling farmland in Canada's agricultural heartland. Beautiful. And we got a couple of higher denominations. There's a $5, that's a B.D. Resminski, also modified series. And then we've got a $20 bill in nicer condition. This one's a B.D. coin, so this is going to be one of the newer bills, or so I should say one of the older bills where a coin was the governor. And so this $5 bill in the RX in the Charlton catalog, it's a lower print run, just over 7 million. In fine condition, it lists at about $14. So that might be what that one is worth. This $20 bill in the BD coin might have a little bit more value. This one here is the L over E prefix. If we take a look here, it's pretty common. L over E, 70 million in that print run. In an EF, it's about a $45 pickup. Now, I paid twice face value for these, as you know, so I already paid $40 essentially for it. So it's probably not quite in an AU, and it's probably about in an EF condition. Doesn't have any major creases or any serious issues at all. So we'll give it a 45. I got maybe a tiny little bit of a premium on that bill. And here's a look at the back of this one. There's a raging river. And then on this side, we've got a serene snow scene. Finally, this is the bill that I was most excited about here. This is a 1937 series $5. This is the bilingual note, Bank of Canada, Banque du Canada. The 1935 series were either in English or in French. You could get a bill with only English or only French. On here, they've combined them. This is Coin Towers. There's a pretty hard to find signature combination in these ones. That's the Osborne Towers. Really hard to find. I don't think I have an Osborne Towers, at least not in this denomination for sure. But even this is a hard bill to get in fairly nice condition. And I would say that this is in a fairly nice condition. It's still nice and crisp. It's definitely been folded. It's got a little corner fold over there, but it's in pretty nice condition. So I'm going to say this is at least in a VF condition. And so we'll check in the book. It's a Y over C. So there's the coin towers, Y over C, pretty common, 20 million printed in a VF. It's a $60 pickup, and that's pretty awesome. So I paid $10 twice face for it. And I think I found something that's definitely worth more than that. And we'll take a peek. We saw the back. These bills were allegories, allegorical depictions of life. And I don't even know what that one's intended to represent, but it's a beautiful bill in really nice condition. A 1937 $5 bill with King George VI on it. Really, really cool. So last up, everything in this was a stack of Canadian. And I think this last banknote here was just in with the other coins and things that I got. It's been folded up. It looks like it's got a burn mark. It is 50 yuan from the Central Bank of China from 1948. Certainly not in great condition, but it's a bill that I've never seen before, and really, really cool. I doubt this has any particular value. I can do a little bit of research on it, but it's very interesting, very cool that I got that in my collection. So I'll set that aside. Got a question for everybody here. What is your favorite series of Canadian paper money? Is it this from the 70s? We've got our bills from the 80s. Those are the Birds of Canada. We've got the 50s and the 1967 series, or the older, the 35s or the 37s. What do you like? What do you have in your collection? I'd really be interested to know. Like me, do you collect coins and banknotes? Are there folks who are exclusively coin collectors and don't collect banknotes? Let me know what your favorite is, and let me know what you think the best pickup here in this slot was. There are a few interesting things for sure. And answer me the question, did I get my money's worth? Did I come out ahead? Did I come out even? Should I have even done this purchase? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below how you think I did. Would you have done the same thing? Would you have picked this up all at twice face value? Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, you've gotten this far in the video, go ahead and click subscribe and you can catch my videos. We're usually doing coin roll hunting, purchasing coin collections, looking at old banknotes, lots of fun stuff like that. And go ahead and click like on the video. That's always very helpful. And of course, if you haven't already got your guide to Canadian government paper money, you'll want to use discount code CRH20 from the charltonpress.com, or you can get this from lighthousecanada.ca. CRH20 is going to give you 20% off your purchase, and that's always helpful. And they've got tons of great resources and supplies for you, like these little flips for your paper money and books like this on your coins and paper money. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.